The silence after she passed was not just quiet. It was thick. Heavy. Like walking through water that never moved. Our little apartment felt too big suddenly, even though it was the same size it had always been. Every room held a ghost of her, a coffee mug left on the counter, a sweater draped over the chair, a book open on the nightstand like she'd just stepped out for a minute. But she wasn't coming back. Not ever. It had only been 6 weeks since the funeral. 6 weeks of waking up to an empty side of the bed. 6 weeks of eating meals alone in silence. 6 weeks of staring at my phone waiting for a call that never came, or worse, ignoring the one that did because I didn't know what to say. My son lived 3 hours away. 3 hours by car through winding roads and small towns that blurred together when your mind was somewhere else. We used to talk every Sunday. Just a quick check-in. How's work, how's the weather, how's your sister, but somewhere along the line those calls got shorter. Then they stopped. Or maybe I stopped answering. I'm not sure anymore. Grief does strange things to time and memory. He moved out 2 years ago after college. Found a job in a city with tall buildings and busy streets. Started building a life I barely knew anything about. I told myself he was busy. That he needed space. That I didn't want to be one of those parents who clings too tight. But the truth was simpler and uglier. I didn't know how to be close to anyone after losing her. So I pulled away. From everyone. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and damp. Rain tapped softly against the window like it was trying to get my attention. I stood in the kitchen holding a small frozen turkey breast I'd bought the day before on impulse. It sat on the counter wrapped in plastic, looking lonely and out of place. I hadn't cooked a real Thanksgiving meal in years. She used to do it all, the stuffing, the cranberry sauce, the pies that took half the day to bake. I never learned how. Never thought I'd need to. I stared at the bird and then at the empty chair across from me. A thought popped into my head, sudden and sharp like a splinter under the skin. What if I just go see him? Not call first. Not ask. Just show up. Maybe the holiday would soften things. Maybe seeing me standing there tired and sad and trying would remind him that I was still his father. That I loved him even if I'd been terrible at showing it lately. Maybe he'd open the door and say, "Dad, come in, you're freezing," and pull me into a hug like he used to when he was 10 and scraped his knee. The idea grew louder the longer I stood there. It felt reckless. Foolish even. But also like the only real thing I'd felt in weeks. Like maybe this one act, this one desperate unannounced visit could stitch something back together. I threw a few things in a duffel bag, a change of clothes, my old flannel shirt, the one she always said made me look kinda, toothbrush. I left the turkey in the fridge. No point dragging that along, locked the apartment behind me and got in the car. The drive started quiet. Just the hum of tires on wet pavement and the soft click of the windshield wipers. At first my mind raced. What would I say when he opened the door? Should I bring flowers? Would his girlfriend be there? Did he even have a girlfriend? Any more questions spinning like leaves in a gutter. But after an hour the rhythm of the road settled me. The rain eased to a mist. Fields rolled by dotted with bare trees and farmhouses with smoke curling from chimneys. Somewhere a dog barked. Normal life happening all around me while mine felt stuck in slow motion. I thought about the last time I saw him. It was at the funeral. He hugged me stiffly, his face pale and drawn. He didn't cry, not in front of me anyway. Just nodded when I said I was sorry and walked away to talk to someone else. I remember wanting to say more, but my throat closed up like a fist. So I let him go. Again. Now as I drove I rehearsed lines in my head. I missed you. I'm trying. I know I haven't been good at this, but I want to be better. None of them sounded right. Too simple. Too late. But maybe showing up was enough. Maybe presence mattered more than perfect words. The GPS voice cut through my thoughts. In 2 miles, turn right onto Oak Hollow Lane. My stomach flipped. This was it. His neighborhood. I slowed the car, checking house numbers through the foggy windshield. There it was, number 42. A modest brick house with a porch light already on, even though it was only mid-afternoon. Warm yellow light glowed from the windows. Smoke curled from the chimney. And then I heard it, faint but clear laughter. His laughter. Bright and easy. A sound I hadn't heard in so long I almost didn't recognize it. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Suddenly I felt ridiculous. What was I doing here, standing on his doorstep like some stray dog hoping for scraps of attention? He hadn't invited me. He might not even want to see me. But I'd come this far. Turning back now would feel like another failure. Another retreat into the silence. I parked down the street so I wouldn't block his driveway. Took a deep breath that did nothing to calm my racing heart. Got out of the car. The air was cold and damp, clinging to my jacket. I walked slowly up the sidewalk, each step heavier than the last. The smell hit me before I reached the porch, roasting turkey, sage stuffing, something sweet baking in the oven. The smells of Thanksgiving. Of home. Of everything I'd lost and everything I hoped to find again. I stood on his porch for a full minute, just listening to the muffled sounds inside, the clink of dishes, voices rising and falling in conversation, that warm hum of people gathered together. Then I raised my hand and knocked. 3 soft raps that sounded too quiet against the solid wood. For a second nothing happened. Then footsteps. Quick and light. The lock turned. The door opened. And there he was. He looked older, tired around the eyes but clean-shaven, wearing a blue apron dusted with flour. A smile was already starting to form on his face, probably expecting a neighbor or a friend, but it vanished the moment he saw me. His eyes widened. Not with joy. With shock. Then something harder settled in. Something guarded. "Dad," he said, the word flat like a stone dropped in water. I tried to smile but it felt crooked on my face. "Hey son," I said, my voice rougher than I meant it to be. "Thought I'd surprise you. For Thanksgiving." He didn't move. Didn't step back to let me in. Just stood there, filling the doorway, blocking the warmth and the light and the laughter behind him. He looked at me, really looked at me, and in that look I saw years of distance, disappointment, hurt. Things I'd ignored or pretended weren't there. Then he spoke. Quiet. Clear. Final. "This is only for family." The words hit me like a door slamming shut in a windstorm. Not loud. Not angry. Just final. "This is only for family." I stood there on the porch with rain starting to mist my hair and shoulders, feeling suddenly very small. My mouth opened but nothing came out. What could I say? He was right. Technically. Legally. Emotionally maybe too. But it still felt like a punch low in the gut. He didn't look away. His eyes stayed locked on mine, steady and tired, like he'd been waiting for this moment for a long time. Like he'd rehearsed this line in his head every time he thought about me not calling or showing up or just disappearing into my own sadness, like it was a cave I never planned to leave. I swallowed hard. Tried to find my voice. "Family," I said, the word tasting strange and hollow. "I am your family." He shifted his weight slightly, one hand still resting on the door frame, the other tucked into the pocket of his apron. He glanced over his shoulder for just a second, quick, like he was checking if someone heard, but I caught the movement. Heard the soft murmur of voices inside. A woman's laugh. Gentle. Familiar in a way that made my chest ache even though I couldn't place it. Then he looked back at me. His face softened just a little but not enough. Not nearly enough. Not the way you've acted, Dad, he said quietly. Not for a long time. The rain picked up a little, tapping faster on the roof above us. Somewhere down the street a car door closed. Normal life going on while I stood frozen on the edge of something broken. You missed Mom's birthday last year, he continued, his voice low but sharp like glass underfoot. You forgot your sister's graduation. You barely called when she was sick for weeks. And after Mom died? He stopped. Took a breath like it hurt to keep talking. You disappeared. Again. Like you always do when things get hard. Each sentence landed like a stone dropped into still water, ripples spreading out from a center I couldn't fix. I wanted to argue. To say I was grieving too. That I didn't know how to be around anyone. That I thought they'd be better off without my sadness dragging them down, but the truth was I hadn't even tried. I'd just gone quiet. Let the distance grow until it felt like an ocean. He stepped back half a step, not to invite me in but to give himself space. Like I was something heavy he needed room to carry. Elena's here, he said, nodding toward the house. Her partner Maya. My in-laws. This is my family now. The people who showed up. Who stayed. Elena. My daughter. The one I'd missed walking across the stage because I told myself work was too busy. The one who texted me pictures of her new apartment and I'd left them on read for 3 days before finally typing a quick nice place. She stopped texting after that. Maya. Someone I'd never met. Someone who apparently mattered enough to be at this table on Thanksgiving while I stood outside getting wet. I felt dizzy. Like the ground had tilted under my feet. All this time I thought I was protecting them from my pain. But really I was just abandoning them in theirs. Leaving them to wonder if I cared. If I even noticed they were hurting too. I opened my mouth again but no sound came out. What could I say? Sorry. Doesn't he fill empty chairs at the table? Doesn't he bring back missed birthdays or late night phone calls that never happened? Doesn't he undo years of silence? He watched me struggle. His expression wasn't cruel. It was sad. Tired. Like he hoped I'd change. Hoped I'd figure it out. But he stopped waiting. Look, he said softer now, almost gentle. I'm glad you're okay. I really am. But today is for the people who've been here. Who've held us up when we were falling apart. You weren't one of them. The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. They sat between us heavy and true. I nodded slowly. My throat tight. Eyes burning but not from the rain. I understood. Didn't he agree? Didn't he like it? But I understood. He didn't slam the door. He didn't yell. He just looked at me one last time, really looked, and then stepped back fully into the warmth of his home. The door closed softly. Not a bang. Just a quiet click that echoed louder than any shout. I stood there for a long moment staring at the wood grain of the door. Listening to the muffled sounds of laughter and clinking dishes through the walls. Smelling turkey and cinnamon and everything I'd walked away from. Then I turned. Walked back down the porch steps. My shoes were soaked through. My jacket clung cold to my skin. But the chill inside was worse. I didn't look back as I walked to the car. Didn't he let myself imagine the scene inside the full table, the easy conversation, the way someone probably passed the gravy to Elena without even thinking about it. The way family does. I got in the car. Sat for a minute with my hands on the steering wheel. The engine was cold. The seat was damp. Outside the rain fell steady and quiet, like the world was washing itself clean. I thought about driving away right then. Heading back to my empty apartment to sit in the dark with my regrets. But something stopped me. Not hope. Not yet, just a small stubborn voice that whispered, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep showing up only when it's convenient for you. You can't keep expecting love without giving any. You can't keep pretending silence is the same as care. I started the car. The heater coughed to life, blowing weak warm air onto my numb hands. I didn't turn around. Didn't head home. Instead, I pulled slowly away from the curb and drove to the nearest grocery store. It was crowded. Families rushing last minute for pies or extra rolls. Kids whining about cranberry sauce. Couples laughing over forgotten ingredients. I wandered the aisles feeling like a ghost among the living. Finally I found what I needed: simple things. A loaf of bread. A jar of jam. A small container of fresh fruit. Nothing fancy. Nothing grand. Just a peace offering. A start. I paid for it all in cash. Carried the bag back to the car. Drove to a quiet park a few blocks from his house. Sat on a bench under a dripping oak tree and ate a piece of bread with jam right out of the wrapper. It tasted like nothing. Like everything. The sun wouldn't set for hours, but the sky was already gray and tired. I watched a squirrel dart across the wet grass chasing something invisible. Life went on. Even when your heart felt like it was breaking. I knew I wouldn't knock on that door again today. Maybe not tomorrow either. But I also knew I couldn't go back to the silence. Not after hearing those words. Not after seeing the truth in his eyes. Family isn't just blood. It's showing up. Staying. Trying even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. Even when you've messed up 100 times before. I finished the bread. Wiped my hands on my jeans. Got back in the car. This time I pointed it toward home. But it didn't feel like the same home anymore. It felt like a place I needed to leave behind. Not the apartment. The loneliness. The hiding. The road stretched ahead, wet and gleaming under the streetlights. Long, uncertain. But for the first time in a long time I wasn't driving away from something. I was driving toward something. Toward a chance. Toward maybe. Toward the slow hard work of becoming someone who deserves to sit at the table. The drive home felt longer than the drive there. Not because of the miles, but because of the weight in my chest. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was clarity. Sharp and uncomfortable, like stepping on broken glass barefoot. I kept replaying his words over and over. You disappeared again. Like you always do when things get hard. He was right. And that was the worst part. I couldn't blame him for being angry. I couldn't twist it into something that wasn't my fault. The truth sat heavy in my gut like a stone I'd swallowed. I pulled into my apartment complex just after dark. The parking lot was quiet except for a couple walking their dog under a street lamp. Normal life. Simple. Connected. I turned off the engine but didn't get out right away. Sat in the silence listening to the rain drip from the roof onto the pavement. My hands still felt cold even though the car had warmed up. Inside the apartment everything was exactly as I'd left it. Dark. Still. The turkey breast still sat in the fridge wrapped in plastic, looking more pathetic than ever. I didn't touch it. Just stood in the kitchen leaning against the counter feeling utterly lost. For years I told myself I was protecting them. That my grief was too big, too messy to bring into their lives. That they deserved happiness, not my shadow. But standing on that porch hearing about Elena's graduation, the nights she was sick, the birthdays missed, I realized I hadn't been protecting anyone. I'd been hiding. And in doing so I'd made them feel alone too. Like their pain didn't matter enough for me to show up. I walked to the living room and sank into the couch. The fabric was stiff from disuse. On the coffee table sat a framed photo, me, my daughter and my son at the beach years ago. All of us smiling, squinting in the sun, sand stuck to our legs. Back when showing up was easy. Before loss carved canyons between us. I picked up the frame. Wiped dust off the glass with my sleeve. My daughter's eyes were bright, full of plans and dreams I hadn't bothered to ask about in years. What did she do now? Did she still paint? Did she like her job? Was she happy? I didn't know. And that ignorance was my fault. I put the photo down and got up. Paced the small room. The silence pressed in again, but this time it felt different. Not comforting. Accusing. It whispered all the things I'd avoided saying, all the calls I hadn't made, all the times I chose solitude over connection. I needed to do something. Anything. But what? Showing up unannounced clearly wasn't the answer. Grand gestures felt hollow now. What they needed wasn't a surprise visit on a holiday. They needed consistency. Reliability. Someone who showed up on ordinary Tuesdays, not just Thanksgiving. I went to the bedroom and dug through an old shoebox in the closet. Inside were letters, cards, photos, things I'd saved but never looked at. A birthday card from my daughter signed with glitter glue. A note from my son after his first college exam. Small things I'd tucked away, meaning to respond to but never did. I sat on the floor surrounded by paper ghosts of the family I'd let slip away. Each one a reminder of a moment I'd failed to hold onto. Then I remembered something. A few months ago my daughter had sent a short email. Just a line or two. Said she'd started volunteering at an animal shelter on weekends. Asked if I remembered how much she used to love taking care of stray cats as a kid. I'd read it. Felt a pang of something, guilt, maybe tenderness, and then closed the tab. Never replied. Now that tiny message felt huge. It wasn't just news. It was an invitation. A thread thrown across the distance, hoping I'd grab it. And I'd let it fall. I went to the computer. Turned it on. Found the email. Read it again slowly. Her words were simple, but underneath them I heard the same hopeful voice I'd heard when she was 8, asking if I'd come see her school play. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could I say? Sorry I ignored you for months. Sorry I wasn't there when mom died. Sorry I'm a terrible father. None of that would fix anything. But maybe honesty would help. Maybe just showing I'd seen her. That I remembered. I typed slowly, choosing each word like stepping on thin ice. I remember the stray cats you used to bring home, Muddy Paws and Big Eyes. You named one Whiskers and cried for a week when it found its real owner. I'm sorry I didn't reply to your email. I should have. Would you tell me more about the shelter? I stared at the screen. It wasn't perfect. It didn't undo the past. But it was real. It was me trying. Before I could second guess myself, I hit send. Then I sat back, heart pounding like I'd run a mile. The screen glowed in the dark room. Outside the rain slowed to a drizzle. Somewhere a car passed, its headlights sweeping across the ceiling like a searchlight. I didn't expect a reply. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. But sending that message felt like the first real thing I'd done in years. Like I'd finally stopped running and turned to face what I'd broken. I got up and went to the kitchen. Took the turkey breast out of the fridge. Unwrapped it. Looked at it for a long time. Then I put it in the trash. It wasn't food. It was a symbol of my loneliness. Of thinking a single grand gesture could heal years of absence. Real healing wouldn't come from a holiday meal. It would come from showing up day after day, even when it was hard, even when I was scared, even when I didn't know what to say. I washed the empty plastic tray and put it away. Cleaned the counter. Made a cup of tea even though I wasn't thirsty. Small acts of care for myself. Practice. Later I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The apartment still felt too quiet, but the silence didn't feel like an enemy anymore. It felt like space. Room to grow. Room to change. I thought about my son's face on the porch. The disappointment, yes, but also the flicker of something else, maybe hope that I'd finally understand. Maybe he'd been waiting for this moment too. Not for me to show up on his doorstep, but for me to wake up inside my own life. Sleep didn't come easy. My mind raced with all the things I should have done, all the time I'd wasted. But beneath the regret there was something new, a quiet determination. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady. Like a heartbeat returning to rhythm. Tomorrow I wouldn't call. Not yet. I'd give my daughter space to decide if she wanted to talk. But I'd keep the email open on my screen. Ready to reply if she did. And I'd start paying attention to the news, to the weather, to little things I could mention in a text if I ever got the chance. Things that said, I see you. I'm here. Even if I'm far away. The road back wouldn't be straight. There would be missteps, awkward silences, moments I'd want to retreat again. But for the first time I knew retreating wasn't the answer. Connection was messy, painful, uncertain, but it was the only thing that mattered. Outside the sky began to lighten just a little at the edges. Night giving way to dawn. Another ordinary day. Full of ordinary chances to do better. I closed my eyes. Not to escape. But to rest. So I'd be ready when the next chance came. 3 days passed. No reply to my email. Not a word. I checked my phone more times than I could count, every buzz, every flash of light sending a jolt through me, but it was always just spam or a weather alert. The silence stretched like taffy pulled thin and brittle. Part of me expected it. Another part kept whispering, maybe today. I didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't show up again. That lesson had been carved deep into my bones. Showing up uninvited wasn't love, it was pressure. And they'd already told me clearly what kind of presence they needed. So I stayed put. But I didn't disappear either. I started doing small things. Ordinary things. Like watering the sad little plant on my windowsill that she used to care for. Like walking around the block each morning just to feel the air on my face instead of hiding behind drawn curtains. Like actually answering when my neighbor waved from across the street instead of ducking my head and hurrying inside. One afternoon I found an old photo album buried in the back of the closet. Dusty and bent at the corners. I sat on the floor and flipped through it slowly. Pictures of birthday parties, school plays, summer vacations. My kids grinning with missing teeth, covered in ice cream sand in their hair, arms slung around each other like they were built to fit together. In every shot I was there too, sometimes holding a camera, sometimes just standing in the background smiling like I belonged. Back then I hadn't questioned it. Belonging felt automatic. Now it felt like something I'd thrown away without realizing its value. I picked out one photo, my daughter around 10 holding a lopsided clay bowl she'd made in art class. She'd been so proud. I remembered her running to show me the moment she got home, flour still dusted on her cheeks from baking cookies with her mom earlier that day. I'd ruffled her hair, said nice job, and gone back to reading the paper. I hadn't asked how she made it. Hadn't saved it on a shelf. Hadn't known it would become one of the few physical things I'd have left of her childhood. Now I slipped the photo out of the plastic sleeve and tucked it into my wallet. Not as a reminder of what was lost, but as a promise of what I wanted to rebuild. On the fourth morning my phone buzzed. Not an email. A text. From a number I didn't recognize, but the first few digits matched my daughter's old area code. My hands shook as I opened it. It was short. Just 2 lines. Got your email, saw the photo you sent, mom, would be loved that memory about the shelter. I'm there every Saturday morning if you ever want to stop by, say hi to the cats. That was it. No anger. No long lecture. Just an open door. Small. Quiet. But real. I read it 5 times. Then 10. My eyes blurred. Not from sadness this time, but from something warmer, something fragile blooming in my chest like the first green shoot after a long winter. I didn't reply right away. Didn't want to smother it with too many words too fast. I waited until late afternoon when the sun was low and golden. Then I typed back just as simply. Thank you, I'd like that maybe next Saturday if that's okay. I hit send before I could overthink it. Stared at the screen until the little check mark appeared. Then I put the phone down and walked to the kitchen. Made a cup of tea. Sat by the window watching the light fade. For the first time in months I didn't feel the urge to fill the quiet with noise or distraction. The silence felt different now. Not empty. Full of possibility. Saturday came gray and cool but dry. I woke early. Showered. Put on clean clothes, the flannel shirt she always liked. Drove to the animal shelter on the edge of town. It was a modest building with a faded sign and a chain-link fence where dogs barked hopefully as cars passed. I parked and sat for a minute, gathering courage. What if she changed her mind? What if she saw me and walked away? What if this was all a mistake? But then I remembered the text. The simple offer. Say hi to the cats. She wasn't inviting me into her life yet. Just letting me stand near the edge. That was enough. I walked in. The smell hit me first, clean but earthy with the warm scent of animals and disinfectant. Inside it was bright and busy. Volunteers moved between kennels carrying towels, food bowls, toys. A radio played soft music in the corner. And there she was. Near the back, washing bowls at a stainless steel sink. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, tied back in a messy ponytail. She wore a faded shelter t-shirt and jeans. She looked tired but calm. Focused. I stopped a few feet away, not wanting to startle her. She turned, then sensing someone there. Her eyes met mine. For a second she froze. Then a small hesitant smile touched her lips. Not big. Not easy. But real. Hi, she said, wiping her hands on a towel. Hi, I said, my voice rougher than I meant it to be. You look good. She nodded. Yeah. It's been busy. Good busy though. We stood there for a moment in that awkward space between strangers and family. Then she gestured toward a row of cages. We've got some new kittens. Just came in yesterday. Want to see them? Yes, I said. Yes, I do. She led me over. Tiny balls of fur tumbled over each other in a cardboard box lined with blankets. Gray tabby, orange calico, black as midnight. One looked up at me with huge green eyes and mewed softly. That one's whiskers too, she said, a ghost of her old smile returning. Guess some names just stick. I crouched down, careful not to crowd them. Reached a finger through the bars. The little black one sniffed it, then butted its head against my knuckle. Warm. Alive. Trusting. I looked up at her. Thank you. For letting me come. She watched me for a long moment. Then she said quietly, you're trying, aren't you? I nodded. Trying to be better. Trying to show up. She didn't say it's about time. Didn't list all the ways I failed. She just looked at the kittens, then back at me and said, yeah. Okay. That's a start. We stayed there for almost an hour. She showed me how to feed the older cats, how to clean the litter boxes, which dogs needed extra walks. Simple tasks. Ordinary things. But doing them beside her, side by side, not facing each other in confrontation, felt like healing. Slow, quiet healing. Before I left, she handed me a pamphlet about the shelter. On the back she'd written her number. Not the old one. A new one. With a note. Text before you come next Saturday, same time. I folded it carefully and put it in my wallet next to the photo. Driving home, I didn't feel elated. Didn't feel like everything was fixed. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years, like I was moving in the right direction. Like maybe I could earn my way back into their lives, not with grand gestures but with showing up. Consistently. Humbly. One Saturday at a time. That night I didn't sit in the dark. I turned on all the lights. Made a proper dinner. Even set 2 places at the table, not because anyone was coming but because I was finally learning to treat myself like someone worth sharing a meal with. The road ahead was still long. My son hadn't reached out. There were years of hurt to mend. But for the first time I believed it was possible. Not because I deserved it, but because they were willing to give me a chance. And that was a gift I wouldn't waste again. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the last dry leaves on the trees. Winter was coming. But under the soil, roots were already waiting. Ready to grow again when the time was right.